Welcome to Moving Humanity Forward. We're aiming to inspire you on this podcast and motivate you by sharing stories of people who have walked different and set different trends and walked paths that we aspire to walk. My name is Cathy Malejane, and today we're talking to a former Minister of Foreign Affairs. He also is formerly MP for Kanye South, and definitely somebody who I think we will get a lot from on today's episode. I'm talking about Dr. Lemogang Kwape. Re Kwape kana ke re Dr. Kwape like it's ena go dumedise be ke go amogela mo Moving Humanity Forward.
Ke a leboga mma ke dumedisa le ba babogedi ba Moving Humanity Forward.
So 58 years in power is what BDP had. We saw losing elections to the umbrella for democratic change. And I want to just put it out there to say, I think we might say we weren't really expecting it. I think the 61 constituencies, BDP only managing to get 4 out of those seats. And a lot of the questions, or rather the big questions people might be asking themselves is what went wrong? And I think, Dr. Kwape, that's one of the first questions I'm going to put to say, what do you think went wrong, especially when you look at the manifesto that you put forward? Say, for example, taking it from 2020 to say, this is what this had in your manifesto, this is what you think you did right. But if you're able, please also share with us where you think it went wrong.
Well, let me start from the 58 years that we've been in government. And most of it is from what recorded in the past. When we gained independence, it was one of the poorest countries in the world. And 50 years down the line, we are an upper middle income country with a lot of infrastructure, with a lot of Botswana having the requisite qualification to run their own country. What comes to mind is what former President Sire said after the discovery of diamonds. He said they were very scared that people will come in, mine their diamonds. So they thought it was important to educate their young people so that one day they will run the diamond mine. Today, Joining Orapa, Lukara, the Botswana. And I think that is an achievement for Botswana. So you asked me what went wrong. We've been in power for 58 years. You would think about because we've been in power for 58 years, we must leave. But you judge moto. But looking back, we believe the BDP has done a lot to develop this country and its people, doing on behalf of them. So come 2024, the loss was unexpected, like you said. Did not know of anyone who knew what would happen. I think towards the elections, there was a lot of discussion on a hung parliament. And when you look at the statistics as it came out, I think the guy who talked to a hung parliament was close in terms of numbers. If you look at the popular vote, UDC got 37%, BDP got 30%, and then all the other parties got a little bit lower than that. So if you took the absolute numbers and you extrapolate it from the absolute numbers, yes, you argue that we probably be heading for a hung parliament, but we have a different political system, which is first past the post and is constituency based. So the constituencies could have gerrymandered the popular vote so that you end up with with only 37% of the popular vote, but gaining 36 seats, and BDP with 30, the second most popular, and with only a difference of just about 60,000 in numbers, gaining 4, and the BCP gaining 15 with less. So that is what it was. Do we know what happened? Still looking at what happened. There are many things that people are talking to. And
are you able to share some of those?
Well, the issue of youth unemployment is one of the issues that have been discussed. And we know that youth are employed. And that's why in our manifesto, one of the issues that we wanted to tackle head on was to find ways of dealing with this unemployed youth. That's why in our programs, whether it's in the agriculture sector, whether it's the innovation sector, we were trying to find means to get youth engaged. That the government put a lot of money out in this program so that youth can do something that is beneficial not only to themselves, but also to the greater Botswana economy. So those are some of the things that we had to address that issue. There also are issues of concern, water scarcity. And if you recall, in the past, our government, we evacuated a lot of water from the north. It was the first time that this country has ever evacuated that water, trying to get water from where we have dams to areas where there is scarcity in the southern part of the those were the areas that were really hard hit by water scarcity. I think by and large we managed to achieve that. There was people were crying about plots, and the president set targets. We exceeded target, and even to date, I think the allocation of plot is moving at a much faster rate. We wanted to Botswana to play a leading role in the international space, and from the last 5 years, we've been able to really make Botswana known, especially at the United Nations. We chaired ECOSOC. We also chaired the LLDC, which we were supposed to have the first conference of that size in Africa here in Botswana. Unfortunately, because I think there was a misunderstanding of what this conference was all about. I mean, I remember the now president, when he was debating, he said it was going to cost $1 billion. The truth of the matter is, it was cost $500 million. It was not. It cost $250 million. The cost of the conference was just a little bit over 202 million pula, and some of that money were being donated by friendly countries, the EU, China, and Canada. They all to the party, and we had made commitments to suppliers, and we knew the value that would bring into the Botswana economy. We've lost that. So those were some of the things that we wanted to do. We wanted to put Botswana in positions in international organization. And we have many Botswana now in the AU, in the UN, even at SADC. The secretariat is headed by Lemogang. Those were some of the achievements. We managed to increase the detail fund. So you had much or many more young people going and trying to point them in the direction where they could do programs that will be the one that will bring more to Botswana.
Allow me to pause you here and just speak to some of what you've spoken to. I think, let me start with the MICE initiative, because I think we're aware from President Masisi was very intentional about making a lot of, or putting forward a lot of initiatives that placed Botswana in a good position as far as MICE is concerned. The issue that came up and again with regards to that is that there was no political will behind the funds or the money coming into the country, really trickling down to the everyday. It was the issue that kept coming out were, but all that happens is we do these great initiatives, and the only people that really benefit are the people that are well connected. That was the cry, and I think one of the other cries that we heard regarding MICE was what is the return on investment? That was a big one. I think just also due to ignorance maybe or misunderstanding of how that works. I don't know if you're able to speak to that. I want to speak again to plot allocation, because again I work on radio, so a lot of feedback comes my way. One of the issues that came up was, okay, so if BDP has been able to do this, and you set a target for 100,000 plots allocated, and you did it within the time that you had set for yourself, which is amazing. But the question that came was, okay, so if you were able to do this all along, why has this not been done all along? And again seemed to be the question on the table with regards to water. If you look at the issues behind the North-South Carrier pipeline, this is something that had a faulty installation back in the 90s, and it looks like we as Botswana are paying the price for a job not done, and BDP wasn't power at the time. Again, these are all issues that came to that table with regards to those. And finally, you started with youth. And again, now looking at youth, the question being, you've done all these initiatives, but when you look at the figures, they're not getting any better. The statistics show you that Ipelegeng figures are growing steadily, and that's not necessarily something to be proud of. So are you able to speak to any of those?
Well, let me start with this one. Youth unemployment. If you recall, before COVID, the unemployment rates were not as high as they are now. But the world over, post-COVID, we got hit by a tsunami. That COVID was a tsunami because the whole world was at a standstill. There was no production. In fact, that is when we realized double negative growth in this country. So the recovery from COVID, not only in Botswana, but the world over, was very slow and painful. That is why unemployment rose from 17, 16, 17%, and now it's the mid-20s, going into the 30s.
I believe that at 2023, it was about 41%.
Absolutely. No, I agree. But I'm just talking to what happened around the world that has affected the intentions of this guys. Of the first 2 years of our administration, we were stuck with COVID.
Yes.
I mean, I remember in 2020 and 2021, the most part of those 2 years, there was nothing. We were not selling anything. There was zero production. So a lot of people were not doing well. A lot of businesses were not doing well. So recovery from that was painful. It is still painful now, but there is recovery all the same. And that's why government backed on this project. That's why there was this reset. So when the president says we need to reset, we need to align ourselves to the mandate that we set ourselves to achieve. We need to make sure that COVID doesn't come back. If it does, we are more prepared for it. We need to digitize because we knew COVID stopped us from working because we did not have the requisite apparatus to work without necessarily to move. I think we've achieved a large in terms of digitizing. And in digitizing, our hope was that employment will be created. If you look at companies owned by Botswana like Diatech, the one that manufactures laptops for schools, cell phones, refrigerators, those are some of the companies that you could point to. It's a young Botswana who just graduated and had these ideas. Bulb is one of those companies. So I think it's to nurture these young people to go into these innovative spaces so that they can begin not to look for jobs, but to create jobs for themselves and for other youth. So I think it's not an event. It is a process that goes on and on and on and on. It's unfortunate that even in our new manifesto for 2024, we're just going to work on these things so that we can begin to realize the benefits of the infrastructural development and other development that government has put money into to help.
Yeah.
So if you put infrastructure, if you put water, if you put electricity, and if you digitize, more people will be interested in coming to set up.
Yeah.
Manufacturing, let's talk to manufacturing or value addition, whether it's in the mineral space or in the production space, in the cultural space. If you do not have the infrastructure, nobody's going to to this country.
That's true.
That's why we spend a lot of money in those projects. And we changed the way we deliver the project. You talked about the water project and the wastage that happened in the past.
Yes.
I don't think we want to relive the past. We want to move forward. That's why we were introducing the development manager. We wanted projects to deliver cost and within time. Because if you do that, then you'll save money and you'll do other things and provide people, women with seed funding to start their own businesses. Not only to sell in Botswana, because the ACFTA, which opens up the African market, the continental market. We wanted Botswana to tap into that. That's what President Masisi's government was working on. Yes.
Okay, so just a quick one here. You spoke to digitization, and I thought during COVID I was very excited by the way about how there was double shifts, and I thought that was really great. Almost as though once COVID ended as well. What was that?
Well, it's a new thing, so I think we need to be at it. But I don't think it stopped. I think young people are catching up. We hope they don't use the technology for the wrong
I mean, with regards to government, because a lot of digitization was put into play, especially when you needed assistance with government, with services.
And well, I'm sure you're going to talk to gaps, and all the other stuff. Look, it's a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
People are getting used to it.
Yeah.
And now you open up and tend to go to their old way of doing things. I think what the government then was trying to do is to continue to encourage people to do it. That's why.
Yeah, but my question is, why didn't government continue? Because if government says this is how you need to interact with us, with government, right? You have control of that if that government. And during COVID, that was the direction it was going. And like I say, I was excited.
Well,
but then why is it after COVID then?
No, maybe other people are not as excited as you were.
Yeah.
But the point is, government continues to encourage people to go digital. That is why, and I was trying to make that point. That is why when you go into villages, all the court clinics, the schools have internet. If you go to Kenya, for example, and you walk in your school, you find young people there connected to the internet, and maybe the next 500 meters there'll be another spot. So I think that helps. And people we're getting the hang of it. It's a new thing, so you expect to have some rough edges on it as it progresses. But all the same, it's available. People are getting used to it, and I think you need not lose the excitement that you had. And you should continue with it. I hope you are continuing doing a lot of your things on the internet.
You're watching Moving Humanity Forward, and trust you're on the internet. We trust. You're checking out the Key Wealth Group Facebook page, and go ahead and share this. If you see it, go ahead and like it. My name is Cathy Malejane. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Moving Humanity Forward. You can also check us out on our Facebook page, Moving Humanity Forward. I have our guest today as former MP for Kenya South, a former Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was actually also former Minister of Health, and then he moved to Foreign Affairs. And current SG of the BDP party. We'll talk about that as our conversation continues. Re kwape ne re santsana re bua ka kgantse ne o buile ka tsone tse ne ke ba gore o a little bit more to them, and I think one was the issue of plot allocation, and I think you touched a little bit on the issue around water to say, look, we made sure going forward we did a better job. You talked about infrastructure. I think I want to speak to that, and again I threw in to you just before we got on air that I recently something in project management, and one of the things that is so glaring to me in my very very beginner stage of project management is that we are really lacking as far as monitoring and evaluation in our country, because how important it is to make sure that our projects are finished well on time and within the budget allocated. This is initially what we speak to when you about a project. What are the scope? Have you done what you are supposed to? And you speak to time and comment as well. So my question is, in terms of accountability, has it been, or was that something that you were putting in place? Because I think I'm all aware as a nation how many projects there are that have not, met that scope, time, and specifications. So, what were you doing about that?
Well, let's start with the plot allocation.
Okay.
Kana ha morago hale batswana ne ba batla ba batla tlamelo di le ko diploto metsi mo e be go nna bonya ka gore ka go letlele gore ditlamelo tseo di goroge di gone anong o segane diploto o bonela batho be ba bua gape ba re kana yanong ha o dino o reetsa batho e ba go nya ga nna sentle go re kopileng marokote re kopa gore lo re behela ditlamelo di re hitlhela re le teng yana gore ba ba segang yana ba kgona go sega diseto e ba batho mme ba idealo ba rotloetsa ba le reng ditlamelo ka bohego gore ba ditse go mone ga thusa yana go ra gore ne ra kgona go sega diploto tse dintsi ra ba batho le ha re kgonne mo go tla ka dikgwetlho tsa gone gore yana batho ha ba le kotle ba re na metsi ga rena motlakase ka gore go re bui ka difounu ka gore mo le mo tse founu mo kgetsing. So ke phitlhelelo e siame mme e tla dikgwetlho ke bone yanong ne ra akanya gore le metsi re ne bohego gore a goroge ko batho ko ba bohego ke bone mo bonang ere le metsi a tla e be go bona gore a le moalo le one o tshwere and it's high ka nako because the resources ga di kalo ya no nna o dira bo lebela gore a dira gore te bo tswela o dira ke dilo tse leng gore ka no mpotsa gore re tokahatsa jaaka go no go ntse e tsholelane le gore tare mo pusong e tlabeng e tsena bjano re itse gore nya nne ha re gone go gorosa metsi ko metsing yana a re a gorose ko batho ko malwapeng ke dio tse leng gore re ne re di dira mme re etsa batho gore batho bone reng ya no bua le ka go tlhoka go dirisa madi sentle kana di project di sa hele go mo le mongwe wa go if you recall the minister Matseka una bua go parliament president of budgetary we are losing a lot of money because of lack of implementation or managing projects. That is why home vehicle development manager where you are in discussion with a project manager you're telling him this is how much I have and this is how much time I have to deliver a project on time and on cost. Then you lock in the price. So homo go ene gore a deliver a project sa go le ke go motsa gore na go e gorogile re tsama ha kae ke ditsela tse di sha tsa go leka go ira ya mme kana if you recall ha o lebella go khalebi go na le matlo a naagiwa a budiri la puso agile ka agilo o ile gore developer aga abadwa within I think 10 years nasa a recovery la dirile profits tsa gago then he handed over the project the SADC building here when has the chairman or SADC.
Can I interrupt you? Yeah. Because then in that case, if you know that model and you're alive to it and you've implemented it, why was that not that nationwide thing? I'm going to give you an example. So I was very I like to look at the dates. There was a date promised and it was, I believe, 2019. That road was handed in 2022. And in between 2019 and 2022, there was not even communication. So my question is, what have you done or had done to ensure that accountability is in place? Because when you speak to monitoring and evaluation, that's accountability. You are aware as government, it's not a new issue. Issue 2010, when I first started on radio, there was a stadium built in Soroe. Up to now, no one is accountable. We just went and spent a whole lot of money on a stadium.
Well, I suppose it is in acknowledgement of the challenges that we've had, that we passed, that government moved swiftly to introduce a model that was and was very, very successful. Why development manager, where you lock in the price. There's what they
was implementing that. What happened even up to now, that landslide is
well. That's why I said there were lessons learned in past projects, and maybe Ramotsa project is one of them. But as recently as this past year, that's when the implementation of the development manager came into force. And some projects are running now, and they're running on schedule and on time. The biggest challenge is the interruption, as presented by the minister, that he wants a 40 days investigation. You know, if you open up a booked contract, then so you actually a contractor that, you know what, now you vary. So those will be the challenge. But as the BDP government, we were trying to really nip that in the leakages, the time factor in terms of delivering projects. And a project, and you understand this as a project manager, I do project management myself. Even in the best laid plan in project management, you can always have this critical pathway. And I think there's a language that you understand. Because of circumstance, you may have to vary your critical pathway. It happens in project management, but you have to know that this is going to happen. That's why you line up things that happen before others, and then you make sure that at the end of the day, to the best of your ability, you try to do the project in the same cost and within time. I mean, when we are discussing, and it's a theoretical thing. It looks like you just have to turn a knob and it will happen. But practically, even with project managers, you try to reach the 90s. Yes, you can never really be perfect, even when you have all the business managers in the world. So, at times they do project in a time,
yes,
and they cut costs. But it's not something that happens every day. But I take your point. We need to implement. We need project managers on site. Government must also play a side role to make sure that Botswana get the services that they need.
Yeah. I think let's move on because we can talk about projects. I think actually before we move on, one last one, and that had to do with something that I saw being spoken about, but I don't think was ever implemented, and that was some sort of blacklisting for companies that didn't deliver on time and on call and so on and so forth. Was that something that was implemented? Because I don't call very well.
You know,
how that
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
But you know, there are intricacies.
Yeah.
In terms of how you administer projects, who you blacklist, how you open yourself up for litigation. So I would not talk much to who was blacklisted. Why
No, I just mean, was that something that as the BDP, government at the time, you had thought about to say, maybe let's do that, because if they have it delivered, then maybe.
Well, in contract administration, it is provided for.
Yeah.
You could actually say, you have not delivered, so I'm not going to give you because you have not delivered.
Yeah.
And I think they just call it blacklisting.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on now, because you spoke about some of the things that you had wanted to work on if you had been given that mandate, and I think you spoke to some of the digitization projects that you worked on, and just the fact that the government listens to people. I want to know, in terms of your way forward, have you, as the BDP, gone around the country and listened to what people have said, and what's the way forward?
We are in the process of doing that.
Okay.
In fact, tomorrow, re ile ko motseng wa re ile go kopana le maloko a bone go tlhola kana go latlhegelwa ke ditlhopho go mo go botlhoko. Maloba wa mpotsa ka re go tshwana le loso kana ha go le loso yo mongwe lela a nyanyarela yo mongwe o supe o mongwe ka monwana a re o moloile. But somebody has to stand up a re, hey, motho o sule a re hetseng go lela re baakanyeng le ko pele. So thulaganyo e tsweletseng ka yone ke gore re bue le maloko ka re ba emetse ano ra ba re tsa gore bone ba re reng yaka o itse mo tsamaisong ya rona ya party e ka kgwedi ya July e be ra congresseng e tla reng pele ga yone ya banana le ya bomme tsamaiso e mo molao motheo ya rona re santse re tshwere marapo re tsamaisa yone thulaganyo eo e ka molao gore ko bohelelong maloko ba itseela tshwetso ka boeteledipele. Mme se rotlhe re se batlang re le maloko a party ke gore party ya rona e boe he ya ka re itse ne nonogile e be e ipaakanyetsa gore mo ngwageng tse tlhano tse di tlang e tsa puso ka gore re dumela le ha kgotsana dingwe di itse gore re senyegelwe ke puso ke rona thihela ka gore na le motlha e ka tsang lehatshe le haleng teng yana re lebeletse ba ba busang gore bone ba tsamaisa jang. Re lebeletse ba lebelela nyaka mananeo gompieko mananeo a tshwana le bothuo le tlotlo e ne e lebagane le go thusa barui go te ga isa tlhole e tla rena teng. Mananeo a tshwanang le go thusa Batswana ba digogi jaaka diterekere lo mo go sutisitswe. Re emetse ya lenaneo la chema gore akgang e ne e buega gore batho ba seka ba duela ga bana go duela ba duela gae ba etsaetsega re lebile mo pusong gore ya reng go ya ko pele. Re lebile mo pusong gore tshologetso ba batsadi ba rona tsa gore ba tla ba okelediwa go menagane le sephatlonya a go tla iraga banana ko dikolong ba lebeletse gore 1500 go tileng hela ha ke tsa puso e tla re kgwedi hela bolong santse batsetsi ba letse gore ama 300 pula a bone a tla goroga yana ke utlwile malo batla utona a reng pay di tlatla santse beletse gore a go tlana le unemployment benefit bene go buiwa ka yone mme re be ba maruri dilo ha o tsa madi a teng wa putukanya o bo lebella deficit ya lehatshe ke dilo tse leng gore ha re bua maruri re lebetse go ditemane ga direko tse leng gore ga go motlhogo di dira ba tlhela economy kana itshwelwa lehatshe le kadimo ya lehatshe ya madi ile ko tlase ile sephatlo sa tselo se re se ipeetseng. We were only borrowing ka 21% when the threshold is 40%. So a ba go adima madi gore ba kgone go duela ke ga bone. And rona re le setšhaba re lebeletseng dilo tseo. Lebeletse gape le gore a puisano e ne re tshwere le DBS ye ne le go tota nne e wetse go setse go a DBS e duela lekgetho kana ga ile duela ile gore nna ne re ba duela bone ba tla reng ka yone. Sologelo ke gore ba tla ira se siametseng batswa ka gore ko bohelelong ke puso ya rona rotlhe re batla gore lehatshe le ko pele.
Our guest today is Dr. Lemogang Kwape, and time is just hitting me right now because there's so much that we still want to talk about. So stay tuned. This is Moving Humanity Forward. Welcome back. This is Moving Humanity Forward, and we're not going to have enough time. Let me time straight into it. Our guest, Dr. Lemogang Kwape, just wanting you to finish off what you were speaking to, because we are watching. I believe all of us are watching the first 100 days of the UDC in power and what the president is going to do, the current president. And so the questions you have on the table, the questions I think all of us have. I have personally, chema for me is one I'm watching because the UDC had said take these loans and then we'll make them grants. So we'll wait to see how that all pans out. But a couple of issues now that I want to bring back to P. I think the first one is we saw a number of resignations happening, and for you even to get into the position you're in was because of a resignation. I would like you to speak to that, and also to speak to BDP as opposition, because there has been that conversation to say BDP ga itse le go nna opposition ga ke la go dira tiro e siameng ga go te la netse.
Well, when we start ka yone ya yo e bitsang opposition, BDP fashion itself jaaka party e ga.
But then are you not being unreal?
You see, ha bereka mo ditlhabololong lo batla la ye ka yone le gorogang go le batlang go goroga teng ka yone e be le thusa gore le ka goroga jang. Yano rona ko rare ra gonna ba ba gakololang e be re ba because o tsana go entsi e re motho a re batla go aga tsela e yang sustainable dual carriageway instead of re ka thusana jang go yaga ya o bo re nya ya go palela kana ke gona go ganetsa gore ga o ka ke wa khona na wena ke go itse.
But that's the role of opposition.
Yeah, but that's what you understand the role of opposition, and you can actually use the name opposition for the motto will oppose whoever is in power. But the idea in a government is to develop country. Ke go tlhabolla lehatsi yana ha o tlhabolla lehatsi yo mongwe a go ganetsa ro wa kwa ba goga gore o ya go yang teng rona re batla gore ha ile gore o dira dilo sentle.
But to believe that opposition has always done that.
Well, I was using different nomenclature. Ya gore rona re dumela gore maybe this word ya go dirisa gore you are using, maybe it's misplaced in terms of how we want to see different political parties ba competela go rana lehatsi. And in other jurisdictions they compete with programs. They say this will do better than one.
But I want to believe that that's something that has been the case.
Look, you can call it what you want. I choose to call it something else.
Okay.
Gore ronar relation ya ka batho ba le kang go ba kanya le go thusa gore lehatsi le go tsile.
Okay, so do you think you're doing a good job with that? Do you think you will do a good job with that?
These are early days in this moment, and I think sometimes we have to be fair. They are very new in government, so they have not really got their footing. That 2 months down the line, the president felt, oh, this guy is ke mathata. Re boeleng gape go dream bo re te go ruta go nna tona kana go tsamaisa puso. I think they should have done that in the
referring to the cabinet
to the new today. Yes, I think they should have done it in the first week. They know that they're getting into government, and they know that they don't have the experience, and they know that they have to depend on the official this government the political wing and then the democratic wing. That's where the experts are. you listen to
I almost want to ask you, because there has been quite a bit of conversation around the technocrats to say, oh, but these technocrats seem to be BDP aligned, and so maybe we should,
yeah, but
that's your take on that.
That's not how the technocracy in this country is fashioned. Technocracy in this country is apolitical.
So you think there's no merit to the claims that
let me just finish my point. They serve the government of the day.
Yes.
When a government comes in, a political government, they present their agenda to the apolitical civil service. So
yes, in an ideal world, that is what happens. And we did see former president actually sitting down with the permanent secretaries and saying, hey, do what you're supposed to do. But again, talk on the street is...
Yeah, but I think we should differentiate talk on the street and reality. Because where the civil service, they are technical people, they are experts. So I do not know of a doctor who, when they're supposed to treat a patient, they do something else because they don't believe the same political ideology. Just do their work. So to say that an accountant will cook the books because it's a different government and actually running risk of being deprofessionalized.
Okay.
So I do not want to believe, and I do not believe that our civil service is political. It's apolitical. It's supposed to be apolitical. So that's the way it is. But if you start rattling them and labeling them like some are being labeled and being attacked for being political, while they are not, I think then going to have a collision. There's going to be a collision course where the service will argue we are not political, and then politicians would label them political. So there will be no progress. Batho ba ke bodiredi jwa puso ba politiki se lekeng go politika le bone bone ba tla dira tiro ya bone. That is the truth of the matter.
Let's speak the resignations. We did see quite a few resignations happen.
Gante le ha ke bua ke le tatlhegelo e tshwana le lona. Batho ba ngana le gore ba ipola ba kgona gore ba go ipola gore utlwe go te mothuso. Ba tsena le batho ba tshwara nyaga go dirwa jalo. Ba go ba si ha go irwa jalo go mo go a iragala mo botshelong a re phuthagane rage batho ga ka go tshwana ba tsamaya ka mabaka a loganeng. But the important thing gore party e tshwanetse gore e nne e nohile yaanong ba leng gore ba itshegetse ba leke ka bojotlhe gore ba phuthe batho ba ile yaka ke bua tla be re ya ko ditlhopong tsa go batla boeteledipele jo bo re tshwanetse re baakanye ba batlang ba bue le maloko a tla seka gore mo go bone ba bona ba le mang yo ka ba go a kopile. So ke se letlelwa mo tsong ya batho ka batho.
And you said that it's happening in July, right? Yes. Okay. So two more issues, and then time is just not on our side. There's a very critical issue right now that is on the tables with regards to death penalty.
Yes.
I'd like you to weigh in on what's your take.
Well, if you recall, last year, one of the things that we were working on is a constitutional review. And that very issue was on the table. How we were Batswana loareng ka constitutional review. Anecdotally, Batswana badumela badre essentially retaining from the engagements. But obviously, that was provided for constitutional review. Who referendum? Batswana ba bui. Kana ha o le dipelo wa batho kana o tlhophile go etela go le batho. Ga o irise wena o wena mo go sone. O ira se ba o emetseng ba dumela mo go sone. E bile o lebella gore bontsi ba mo go e. Yes, o ka leka ka semane mo go tong go persuade ba mme ka re ka ga galwe bone ha ba re nya re dumela ba go laela gore ke ka hare batlang go tsamaisa ka teng ke gone mo bonang.
So you're saying, according to the constitutional review that was done, Batswana wanted.
Yeah, ga ke ragalo. Kare I would think gore the consultations were a research of some sort. how ready is it? That's why I use the word anecdotally. But ba lebega ba santse ba sekamela ka gore death penalty ka be ke qualify ke re me ka tsamaiso ga leng gore e contentious ya ka death penalty e heletse re tshwetso go referendum. It was provided for in the draft constitution, so it did not see light of day. For Africa, we have fresh. Maybe that question will be put to Botswana gape gore death penalty. But I'm telling you, qualitatively.
I want to know what your take is, Dr. Kwape.
Well, as a representative of the people,
yeah.
your take is, it does not matter. What matters is who you represent. Are you representing the person? Motswana a eng is nna nka dumela se dumela nka direle ma ke direle ntlha e ke batlang go e bua ka dumela gore ke go nyala basadi ba le 10 nna tsona ba re nya ga re dumalana le gore ba nyalo ba le 10 ka lona bo mme lo rile lo ba to jalo le 10 ke swantse ke
so batho ba ka nyesa
kore ga ke tsore o batla ke go areka ke reng ka re Batswana ba budiwa ha ka ntse go tsamaya mo dikgotleng yana ba lebega ba re e tshegediwe death penalty ke be ke qualify ke mme ka tsamaiso ya go ira molao ha re tsena le hapala me hape le yone kgotsa e dumalane go sentse re go iwe ko gore Batswana bone ba bue ka bongwe gore ba batla eng.
Okay, we'll leave that one alone. This is a very, I mean,
you can look to all the arguments. It is topical. The president talked about it in a way, because he was talking about being a violent nation and human rights lawyer. You could tell where he was going in terms of issues that related to his area of expertise. But the question you're asking is not for me to answer. So but our direction it's simple.
We'll leave it alone. I think maybe if we had more time, or maybe,
as Minister of Foreign Affairs then, there are some countries who continue to come to Botswana to lobby against the death penalty.
Yes, I'm aware of that, and I know you face that.
Position will be the position government must drive. Wait, we
don't have time. We don't have time.
We are confident we will win. Again, but win. I got to untower Kidumela,
let's close off this conversation with you just sharing with us, because you're talking about moving to the Congress in July, and you are in a position right now within the party, the Secretary General, and I think always are the positions that we were interested in. So I'm going to ask you with regards to that, and also with regards to the presidency, to say, is president of the BDP going to be trying to retain that position? Are you aware of what he is planning, and are you share that with us? And we'd like to know for yourself as well.
The Friday after elections, the president held a press conference and said that applicant that has no interest in the contestation for party president going forward. But he also said that he will stay on until the leadership issue has been resolved, which resolved at the Congress.
Yes. Are you able to share some names of who is throwing the?
Well, nobody has officially communicated to the party that they intend to run for political office. But this is a process. I'm sure in the goodness of time, people will do the same. But maybe the question you want to ask me is, am I contesting?
I do.
And the answer is no.
My next question: you're not contesting. No. SG presidency, you're not contesting for any position?
No, I'm not contesting. Yes.
Okay.
So the answer is no.
Okay.
Not this time.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Kwape, it's been a huge pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
How we close off this episode of Moving Humanity Forward. Just not enough time, so many questions, but definitely make sure you check out our next episode. And of course, in the meantime, do like our page, Moving Humanity Forward. You find us on Facebook. My name is Cathy Malejane. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you soon.